Hey guys, it's JC. I am back with part 3 of healing our mind to heal our health. And if you haven't watched part 1 and part 2, if you're just stumbling across this video, they're linked below. Go watch them or this will not make much sense. What I'm hoping you have fresh in your mind, if you have experienced part 1 and part 2, is kind of a list of the lies you believe or the lies that you have been tempted to believe. Maybe some of the untruths, the things that have been introduced to your mind. I hope you've been thinking a lot about that. I want that fresh in your head because today we're going to go a little deeper and talk about how those lies start out as a little whisper, right? How they become real. Like, how does that even happen? You would think with the way the enemy works, we'd be on to him. We would be like, no, I'm not believing that about my body. I'm not believing about that about God or about my battle with food, or I'm not going to believe that I'm a failure. I'm not going to believe, but we end up totally drawn in. It becomes real. And we live according to that lie for years sometimes. So that's what we're going to talk about. How does that even happen? Because once we understand the process better, we can stop it in its tracks. That's where the healing starts, because then we could see how the adversary is working us, attacking us, coming after us, trying to bring us into captivity. Again, whether it's with our body image, whether it's with food addiction, any unhealthy addiction, it could be any area. So maybe have 1 or 2 lies that showed up on your list fresh in your head as we talk about how this works. So of course, you're probably going to go, yeah, duh, I get it. The first step, we know, is we're introduced to the lie somehow. Whether it is Satan himself just whispering it into the back of our minds, whether he whispers it to someone else who then says something to us that deeply impacts us, and a comment they made about our body or our personality or something, and it gets introduced to us. It could be on social media. It could be through any source. Satan is genius. He can work all kinds of different ways to introduce us to a thought that he knows is going to take us down. We're not quite sure, because a lot of times this thought at first appears somewhat true. I mean, just take the lie, I'm a failure when it comes to food. I mean, honestly, for me, that was not really a lie. It was truth, because I'd failed again and again and again and again and again. So it was first that lie is introduced, and I'm going to tell you why it's a lie, because I'm not a failure through Christ, right? That's the truth. Is through Christ, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. That's not true of me, but that's what I believed for a very long time. I've tried too many times. I can't overcome this. I'm a failure. I can't. You don't understand. So at first, he just whispers that lie to us, introduces it to us from some way, some form. But that's not the part we're worried about so much. It's what comes after that first, introductory, when we first begin to hear it. It's what comes next that we need to be on guard and thinking about and processing and aware of how this works, so that we can, in the future, stop it. This comes from Nancy Lee DeMoss in her book, The Lies Women Believe, that I referenced in part 1. She says, of course, what we're just talking about, she says, listening to counsel or ways of thinking that are not according to the truth is the first step in developing wrong beliefs that will ultimately place us in bondage. But listen to this. Once we've listened to the lie, the next step toward bondage is that we dwell on the lie. We begin tossing it around in our minds, and it keeps coming back, and we keep thinking about it and processing it. And what's even worse is that the adversary then goes, oh, cool. Okay, she's considering this. And I fully believe, and have seen it happen dozens of times, probably more than dozens in my life. He then brings evidence into my life to verify the lie, to say, see, you are a failure. See, that is true. He is the king of bringing more evidence to make us go, yeah, I can't do that. Yeah, that's too hard. Yeah, whatever the lie is, it begins to build. We dwell on it. He introduces more evidence to make it seem true for us, to draw us farther from God's truth and more toward believing what he's trying to whisper to us. So step 2 is we begin to dwell on it. We begin to consider it. We begin to evaluate evidence that maybe makes it seem true. even though the scriptures say boldly it's not, or someone else has told us boldly it's not, we start to lean toward the evidence he's showing us that this is something that we need to believe about ourselves, our bodies, our lives, whatever. And then comes the tough part. Now, I got this from Dr. Dan Allender. It's actually in a book, you guys, called Healing the Wounded Heart. And it's on recovering from sexual abuse. Now, I had seen him quoted from other authors, and that is not my background, but I was fascinated by some of the quotes I had read out of this book. And so I thought, I've got to read some of Dan Allender. And I started reading that book, and it sucked me in. If that is your background, oh my goodness, this book is deep and beautifully written, Christian, on the healing process from that abuse. Beautiful. But he understands the mind and this cycle so well. And so I'm going to apply it to our journey. The book is not about that, but I'm going to apply it to our journey. Listen to this quote from Dr. Dan Allender. The plan of evil is to get us through lies, deceit, accusations, and threats to make a vow of loyalty to it. So here's step 3. To make a vow of loyalty to what Satan is trying to tell us. Now, I know first instinct, we're like, I would never do that. I would never be loyal with him. Like, I don't want any part of what, but he called it a vow of loyalty. All it is we go from listening to it. The next step is we begin to dwell on it and consider it and throw it around. And then finally, we make a vow of loyalty. Like, we go, you know what? That's true. We embrace it. We agree with what he's whispering. Internally, deep in our subconscious thought, it goes boom. It just settles in and we go, yep, that's true. Now, again, I don't say it with my mouth. It's happening deep in my subconscious, but I accept it. That's how I make a vow of loyalty. I accept it. I believe it. He says the more we believe and bind our heart to this truth, the more pathways it can develop to other lies. Let me show you a couple scriptures that actually support this. And I would have told you years ago that this doesn't apply to me at all until the Lord began to teach me this. And I went, oh man, I've done that so many times. So think about this in your own life. This is Isaiah 28:15. He says, you've said, we made a covenant with death, and with hell we are at agreement. Made a covenant with death, and with hell we're in agreement. And again, we'd read that and go, I've never done that. I've never been in agreement with Satan. But I hate my body, and I think it's horrible, and I think it's ugly, and I think I'll never be attractive, and I think that it's embarrassing to be seen in a bathing suit. And have you been in agreement? Have you embraced or agreed or made a vow of loyalty to something that he's whispered to you? Again, with body image, with food battle, with our marriage, with my parenting. I'm a terrible person. I'm da, 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 da. These thoughts that spin, it's not terrible that he can throw them at us. That's not the dangerous part. The dangerous part is when we begin to listen, we begin to dwell on them, and then finally, like Dr. Allender says, you make an agreement with him, an agreement with hell. We vow of loyalty to it. He says this vow, which is based on lies, links the heart in loyalty to the kingdom of darkness. I mean, that's troubling, right? We don't want to believe that we've ever done that, but oh my gosh, there's so much evidence in our lives where we could just go, I'm so stuck, I can't stop believing that. It's because I've deep in my heart, at some point, I embraced it and I said, yeah, that's true. Listen to this analogy. This is so crazy. He goes, it's like when we give the deed of property we own to a squatter. This giving over allows evil to have access and authority in that area of our life to do harm. So we need to reclaim the deed of property that is rightly ours, but falsely claimed by Satan. Have you made a vow of loyalty subconsciously with anything that the adversary has tried to whisper to you? Oh, I forgot. I have another scripture. Oh, my glasses. On, off. So dumb, but they glare. So I don't know. 2 Corinthians 6:16. What agreement hath the temple of God with idols? Your body is the temple of God. It's the temple of the Holy Spirit. It's how God dwells in us and is in us through that power of the Spirit. And yet, what agreement have I made with false gods, false ideas, false beliefs? That's something to chew on, isn't it? That's where the lie goes from a little tiny whisper in my head to actually being a real truth for me that I then influences my emotions. I mean, again, go back to body image, back to you being in a dressing room one day, trying on bathing suits or whatever. Oh, the battle in our mind, and not just the introductory idea, oh, look how awful you look. But it becomes a vow of loyalty. I am never going public again in a bathing suit. I will never be seen. I refuse to take pictures of myself because I look terrible in those pictures. Think how this can spiral. But it becomes our truth. It's no longer something being whispered to us, but it becomes our truth because we embraced it. We made a vow of loyalty to it. We agreed with what he was saying. And then we began telling it to ourselves. We don't need him to whisper it to us because we're telling it to ourselves. We're just keeping that going. It's part of our life. It's real now. The lie is real now. Okay. I hope I've given you some more to chew on. Look at your list of lies. I hope you have one. How did those lies become real? Look at the process of maybe the evidence that the adversary used to convince you it was. Maybe how you dwelled on it in your mind and rolled it around in your thoughts. One of my very favorite books on this, very favorite, I would buy it for all of you if I could, is Jenny Allen, Get Out of Your Head, Stopping the Spiral of Toxic Thoughts. I bought it for my girls. I bought it for my daughters-in-law. I've recommended it to more people. And I could have read you like 12 quotes out of that book that goes with this, but this one just hit the nail on the head. She says, Jenny Allen, get out of your head. One uninterrupted lie in my head has the potential to bring about unimaginable destruction in the world around me. One uninterrupted lie in my head can bring unimaginable destruction in my life. And I like the way she uses the word uninterrupted, because again, those thoughts begin, but then they start getting in and getting in. We have the power to interrupt that process and go, no, I'm not believing that. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, or whatever scripture or whatever truth we use to battle that. We can interrupt that process, but it's when it goes uninterrupted and it goes from a thought to something we dwell on, to something we consider, to something we then embrace and agree and vow loyalty to, or however you want to put the language. That can cause, she says, unimaginable destruction in our lives. So here's the point where we have to understand the process, but then know how to battle and interrupt those lies so they don't become real. They don't become real. And that's what we're going to talk about next time. What that battle looks like so they don't become our new truth. They don't become core beliefs that then keep us captive in unimaginable destruction, in misery, to where our entire adult lives we hate our bodies, or our entire adult lives we are captive to food addiction, or our entire adult lives we just live that lie. That lie is real for us. We live it, and Satan laughs. This is a terrible, terrible way that he can get in our heads. And I think it's time that we stop being victims and know how to fight back. So that's what we'll do next time. This week, just give it some time to process this. Think about how this is personal for you. Maybe take a peek at Jenny's book. I'll link all of that below. But then we can be better prepared to understand how to break that process and keep it from happening. I hope that helps. Have a wonderful week.